I want it to be story time. Can we have story time? I wrote this story, was it a month ago? It just kind of popped out of my brain. I was focusing really pretty diligently on redirecting my thoughts to my emotions and not trying to, as opposed to trying to figure out this thing that was really confusing for me that had to do with emotions. And after a little while of doing that, I think I got into sync, or I got in touch with how that felt. And so I started playing with that and varying and crisscrossing. And the thing that I was not thinking about was what kind of drew the story out, but in a beautiful way, instead of that story sort of reeling or luring somebody back, this confusing thing. I guess the way I have accepted programming is that breadcrumbs make a trail and it leads somewhere, and that's bullshit. Breadcrumbs, just breadcrumbs. It's taken me 33, well, I haven't been dating for 33 years, but I'm 33 years old, and that's a lesson that I'm just now learning. That, a lot of these kind of fairy tale stories, we need to be way more, educated in order to take what's in children's stories for truth. Those stories are important. Our mythos, our legends, even the most Ring Around the Rosie seems to have disappeared, but that's a really dark, fucked up. It has an origin that's very death. It's very saturated in death, but it's a song that is like a children nursery rhyme. A lot of our nursery rhymes, my generation, so the millennials, I think we're just old farts now. I miss MySpace. Those are our mythos, and we were fed them upside down, and we need to learn. We need to start turning them on their head. And remember, the hanged man in the deck is not only a self-imposed inversion, or a self-imposed timeout. I need to look at this a different way. I need to switch gears completely, turn around end for end, and look at it's also a message. The hanging man, in society, in the especially feudal times, when hanging was, we're gonna go to a stoning, we're gonna go to a hanging. It was their life with the Kardashians, or whatever that show is called. That was their consumption for entertainment. That was what was titillating for them and entertaining. That was what they consumed to meet that need. And during that time, the man who did the hanging, the hangman, was I wasn't there, I don't know, and I'm not an anthropologist, but they, from what I've kind of observed in my reading, they're probably pretty low on the social stratum, right there with that, with death itself, with the scythe in its hand. So this idea of an inversion is very fertile imagery, or it comes with a lot of symbolism, and if I'm not mistaken, the number of that card is 12. And there are a lot of ways the brain can go with that number, but we use it a lot. We have a word for it, a dozen. Right? So The nursery rhymes or the stories that I grew up with, a lot of them were really dark. Songs about babies falling out of windows and, like, I don't know, the cradle breaking, a lot of really dark, weird stuff. And I'm so grateful for that now, because it ended up giving me an imagination just on steroids, right? So, sorry, I produce a lot of content. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this story was written for, like, a confusing puzzle that I couldn't put down until I did. And then once I started looking more deeply at the story, I thought, hey, my brother would appreciate this. This might not be too, like, lame, and he's used to me sending him novels, so why not? This is actually short compared to half the stuff I send him. And then he wrote back, and it wasn't the response of the person that was, like, quote unquote, the story was written for, like, drawn out. It was the response from my baby brother that gave the story its meaning and gave the story, like, the definition, I guess, it needed to become a doorway. And it just started this whole, and I'll get into it more, but so we're just gonna have story time for right now. Okay. So once upon a time, a thing happened in a dimension which exists outside time. Somehow, and mainly for the purposes of storytelling and fable, the story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Only the end is the beginning, the middle is the end, and the end is somewhere in between. It starts in a rainforest, a real one, not one of these North Hemispheric temperate rainforests, a tropical rainforest with insatiable, maddening humidity and bugs the size of fists. A boy seems to slip into awareness of the nature of life a little before his time, and whether it was panic induced by the heat of the day or the boy lost it because the slip turned into a hop, skip, jump into full-blown insanity. In an instant, he bolted. He bolted from his village and ran like lightning into the parts of the jungle even men and boys older than him never considered stumbling into. And as the flesh of his human body became weak from the exertion of his travels, his pace slowed. He was able to make out the sounds and sensations of something crashing through the land with him. He became aware of his otherness there, in the darkest of corners under the thick canopy. All at once, the madness within him seemed to subside, and he knew the choice before him. He sought out the thing crashing and moaning, wailing now through the vines and squawing beasts making home there. As soon as he saw it clearly, the fear was defeated, even though he knew it shouldn't. As he gazed at the thing, all teeth and contortion, desperate sounds and jagged movements, torment incarnate, he loved it. While the chase ahead, already exhausted from his own disillusionment, seemed impossible for certain, it was inevitable that he knew it deeply within his heart. It was inevitable, and he knew it deeply within his heart. So he locked eyes on his prey and trudged forward. Being outside of time, it's impossible to know if the boy ever made it out. Maybe the boy became a man as he chased torment incarnate, but somehow that boy or some version of him managed to stalk and track and capture that tangled wild thing. When the character we started with returns to the story, he tells tales of living a long and fulfilled life side by side with the most beautiful thing he ever conquered. He tells of becoming old, surrounded by kin and people who have his lover's eyes. And you can almost make out a line in the corner of his face where you swear there wasn't before, suddenly drawn in our character's lithe and dewy temple, even though you know you shouldn't. Oh, yeah, you got to look at my pile of dirty dishes. Believe it or not, that's... Okay. So that story came out about a month ago, but I've been chewing on that for a long time. After the more recent of the suicide attempts in November, which was the first in a while. I'd contemplated it for a long time, but it had been, I don't know, 5 years? Anyway. So after that one, and that's a whole other video that, maybe it's not, maybe I'll just share. Maybe I'm just feeling sharing. So that time was a mode that I had tried before, but it didn't work. And unfortunately, when we survive a suicide attempt, it kind of gives you data to add to your knowledge bank to kind of try different things next time. So I tried this thing that I had done before a different way. Thank God math doesn't work for me. Did my math wrong. Almost took too much, but just like, I actually probably did take enough to die because I was so frail and so thin. Anyway, I'm like trying to kind of, I feel myself losing consciousness, and I'm just like welcoming in this sleep, and I'm essentially chanting Lady of Death, be sweet to me, things like this, trying to just leave. And I go to sleep, and then I wake up and my cat's like doing the paw knee, which she doesn't do that unless. So anyway, she woke me up just by crying and pawing and poking me. And then so like I kind of like, I'm sorry, you're gonna be okay, and like I confront that. Like, I'm such a bitch. Like I actually like, hey, I acknowledge this is scary for you, but you're gonna be okay. I know you're gonna be okay. I believed it so truly that that what I was doing was altruistic, and that I am such a source of bad, that what seems to be bad in suicide is actually a gift. So I was, that was my mindset, and it was really this conviction of just like, I'm sorry you don't see what I see, Prudence, but I believe in this. I'm willing to die for this belief that I have. And I went back to sleep. And the next time I woke up, it was because of sensations going through my nervous system, mainly my spine, that felt like live electricity. And I thought it was just like the toxicity of the medicine that I had taken. Kind of, they say it hurts when you die that of a toxic overdose. Your nerves kind of catch on fire. Your body is aware of what's going on. Days and days later, when I was a little more lucid, I tried to do a lot of research about this medication and the sensations I was having in my body. And there was absolutely nothing I could find that tied that effect to that medicine, even at a toxic dose. And I remember babbling about it in the ER, and nobody... So this story came out a couple of days after that, in the shower. Another example of a day when I lost a pretty good chunk of time. And I went really into my imagination. And long story short, watched movie clips of what I thought at the time were like past life incarnations. And now I'm starting to wonder if this is less mucking around in the Akashic record and more memories of things that I've observed. Not things that I've done, but things that I've observed. So that story, I thought at the time, was like this odd depiction of my life as a male shaman. And now I have to wonder, maybe it's not. But I think that, like, the connection that I made with my brother because of this story was the lesson that I was supposed to learn from the story. Because when my brother asked me who, like, God, I love this. What's your inspiration? Like, how do you come up with this? And we started that conversation. It was a couple of days later. I process slow. So it was a couple days later that it occurred to me, if this story is about an external male figure, if it's inspired by an external male figure, it's inspired by my brother. Because when I say he, that part of me that is saying he is associated with Alan, or with my brother, on if there's a spectrum, and this is shattering. This is all in the process of shattering, but this is like my old worldview. If good or masculine has a good and a bad, if masculine is on a spectrum, if my masculine has a spectrum, my baby brother is on like the light and good and trustworthy, like he's all the positive things, and like my genesis, my genetic biological DNA, which is different from his paternal genetic DNA, is the other side of that spectrum. So if this story is about a beloved masculine, it's as much about me as it is about baby brother, as it is about any beloved male figure in the world. And again, that was short of a month ago, and I'm just now receiving kind of, I guess, the doorway, like the way to turn this information into the next doorway. So if I am a twin flame, and this is, like people have different ideas about what that means. So when I say a twin flame, I'm using my definition, or like what I've come to know that term to mean. If there are twin flames, if I am a twin flame, I'm sure my higher self thought well enough to build in an insurance policy. My other half is my baby brother. The only person on this planet I know for sure is protected from my pleasure kill instincts and ways. The only person I trust in the way I trust him. The only person I am capable. And it's not a sadness anymore for me. He is the only person I am capable of loving in the way that I love him. And that's masculine, feminine, all of, everything in between. That's anybody. And he's my brother, so he's protected from that sexual pleasure kill tendency that I'm now beginning to think I don't think I'll ever vanquish or be free of. And if he is my twin, I gave authority of my half I gave authority of my half of him to make into a 3/4 flame to do with what he wants. So I know that he has, a 3/4 flame, and that he has a partner, soul. He has a counterpart, and it's not me. And so the earth angel mother is embodied in earth masculine as empress. That's my baby brother. On earth as feminine as emperor, and that's me, Daddy Cat. Each offspring given from different fathers. And I think it's going to take me a while to chew on that mythology. But this is one of those times when I wish I had the brain of the internet, like the internet for a brain, or the next, or not even the next, but like maybe even the thing that's better than that would be other minds, other human minds to join in the conversation. The problem is you can't summon people. You can summon demon spirits, you can summon angels, you can summon archetypal energies, but you can't summon people. That's one of those, like, being in alignment. That's one of those, it's my responsibility to keep that little girl recognizable. It's my responsibility to vacillate or sometimes balance the dark and the light and the masculine and the feminine within me. And there is a lot of, there's a lot to be said for being in that hanged man position and being the bottom of the social stratum, There's something to be said for 12. So someday, and here's what's exciting, is that I feel super old sometimes, but I'm only 33. I need to start saying I'm only 33. And there's still lots of room for time full of input from others. And knowledge, or like maybe somebody else remembers a story that they studied about a pantheon who has, I know there's Castor and Pollux, and I'm a Gemini, like I know that twin imagery or mythology, but I'm looking for something that's more dark, I guess, because I'm starting to really think that what we see in the 3D is like a inverted or like a mirror image version of what real reality is. So as we experience masculine, it's actually what we're actually experiencing is it's opposite, and then it's opposite. It's this imagery for spirituality as a cross, as like two lines with like one point of interception. I just think that that's really unfortunate, because I think the imagery of like the Mobius strip, the figure 8, like, yeah, that still only has one point of cross, but there's so it's not this direction and that direction. The Mobius strip is every direction and anything in between. And then to even expand on that, like, I guess I feel like I came from a culture of just the crucifix, just two lines intersecting. And they're different lengths, and there's some interesting things, whatever. I'm looking for, what is it? Is it the neutron symbology of like, yeah, there's a point of origin, but there are so many Mobius strip, like, what is that with the circle in the middle, and then it goes loop, 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 and it just goes in every direction, and you just have all of these. Is it the way an atom is structured? But that's closer to the truth, I think, than a lot of these straight line pantheons or methodologies, like actual methods for practicing occult. And I am a slow processor, and I don't do straight lines. So it would be nice, it would be nice to be Amabi and have a hive and have a hive mind and have access to people who can do numbers and people who can think in straight lines and get to the gist of it already, and just explain things to me
I guess it's top down. I said it's bottom up last night, but it's top down. So if lessons are hierarchical and you're supposed to have a foundation first and then build on that, I seem to be the opposite. I seem to be like, okay, give me the end of the story and then I'll do the work of building the foundation, which is fucked up and backwards. And I don't know if that's just a really big lesson that I need to learn. But for the time being, like we're just not there yet, which gives me something to look forward to. And my mom has really like trained me to understand that that's important, and a lot of things in my life have brought that back around, that like having something to look forward to is important. And yeah, so I'm playing with masculine, feminine kind of ideas, and what masculine here means in the spirit world. And like I said a few videos ago when I was getting super duper batshit, who is Lilith's lover? Because it wasn't Adam, and a lot of the Judaic mythology will say that she procreated with demons. And I just think that that's bullshit, because demons can be bossed around by people. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's fun for her to like get her rocks off every so often and do it with a demon, but I don't think she procreated with them. So anyway, I guess if she's a bullet, what's light that holds a void inside of it? Is that even possible? I guess that's my daddy cat. I have to chew on that one and figure out what that is. Anyway, cheers.